You may know West Wilson as a sports journalist, former college football player, or one of the newest additions on Bravo TV's hit show Summer House. But West, who's been described by the New York Times as the new #1 guy in the group, has a bigger message about the effect misogynistic manfluencers, Trump, and other far-right politicians are having on young men's conceptions of women and LGBTQ people.
I think Trump has given these people a platform to just not take accountability for literally anything.
Today, West goes beneath the grid.
Well, cheers.
Hell yeah.
I did some research on you and read your New York Times profile. One of the things they said in it was that gay comedian, actor, and Bravo fan Joel Kim Booster, he said, "I haven't liked a straight white guy this much since frickin' Bernie Sanders."
Oh,
Why are you
nice.
exuding allyship?
I don't honestly know if I know the answer to that. From a young age, I think I've been able to move through life relatively confident and sure in who I was, and I think that's allowed me to be comfortable with making new friends and being around people who are different than me. Not naturally rejecting being uncomfortable in people's differences. I attribute most of that to both of my parents, for sure. A lot of white men who still probably have the most privilege in our country would now appear to be the most insecure population. I think being secure in who you are kind of allows you to trust others more.
You have a lot of fans in the football world, in the bro world, let's say, right? When I reached out to you and was like, hey, do you want to do an interview with an LGBTQ news publication? Why were you interested? And kind of said yes immediately.
That's a great question. Obviously, I am a white dude from Missouri who is very sports forward, and I think a lot of people are quick to label me. Before you and I talked to do this, the word bro culture was used a lot, and I certainly am 100% a bro, I guess you could call it. But the culture itself, I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing. And so,
why do you think you're 100% a bro? But why do you think the culture isn't the part that you might identify with as much?
Bro culture, I don't know. I don't think it needs to be a bad thing, I guess. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
It certainly has gone places that it shouldn't. Now when I think of all the large groups of people wearing, let's say, red MAGA hats, young people, it's a bunch of white kids wearing vests who are, I would guess, mimicking what their parents are telling them.
You've done some posting on your political views on social media, but
yeah,
let's
not a
clear it up.
secret.
Who did you vote for and why?
I voted for Kamala. I think for me, my mom is an OBGYN and very pro women's health, women's rights, and so being pro-choice has always been a very clear understanding for me since I can remember. That's never really been a question. And also guns, again, people might be surprised, from Missouri, dad rides horses. I just think all the shit that's happened in our country with guns and the inability for people to fucking stand up for that is completely wild to me. And so those two are very colossal reasons why I am and will probably be a Democrat forever.
Trump and the GOP spent $215 million on anti-trans ads, so that's 5 times more than he spent on ads focused on the economy. The biggest voting bloc that swung aggressively towards Trump was young men, right? So why did that type of messaging, that anti-trans messaging, resonate with folks of your demographic group?
I find it baffling, to be honest. I've lived in Hell's Kitchen for 5 years. There are drag bars all over Hell's Kitchen that I walk by every single day. I have not been subjected to more drag queen propaganda or trans propaganda over the last year or two than I was by people from the Republican Party. They want people to be afraid of things that they aren't necessarily comfortable with. I find them to be obsessed with the idea of trans people and drag queens. If you only watch Fox or if you only read tweets from people that you want to follow, you're going to be told to be afraid of something, and you're probably going to be because you've never been subjected to, X type of person.
The echo chamber effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is everything that we could talk about today.
Why do you think he intentionally targeted those ads in college football games and sports games?
It's easier to not accept real life when you have easy like, not to use sports analogies, but like layups to blame other people for other things. So like, it is weird, the same type of people who think elections are fake, think sports are rigged. Like, people can't accept that things like possibly didn't go their way. And I do think his entire time in office the first time and then this campaign again was very much like giving people outs to just blame other people and be afraid of things. And when you can't accept the real world, then it's so easy to just say like, it's a bunch of other people and other things' faults. Because if someone is triggered by a drag queen or someone who's trans, it's easier for them to push back, not agree with it, and agree with Trump or with his campaigning or with that party, because they don't have to internally reflect in any way.
Obviously, there's a whole world of like the manosphere out there and manfluencers, right? Many who espouse like deeply misogynistic views, right? We think about Nick Fuentes, who posted "Your Body, My Choice," right? And then and then Andrew Tate is another one. And I want to read you a few things that Andrew Tate has said. One thing he said is, "I think my sister is her husband's property." Another thing he said was, "I'm absolutely a misogynist," and added, "I'm a realist, and when you're a realist, you're sexist. There's no way you can be rooted in reality and not be sexist." Over half of young dads, 56%, under the age of 35, have a favorable view of Andrew Tate, while almost a quarter of teenage boys are positive about the influencer, right? So what is going on in, again, your demographic group, not to throw it on the bus, where you have that massive part of the population who thinks, F yeah, let's be sexist, let's be misogynistic, let's say that women's rights and abortion rights are our decision as men.
Do I think these people actually think this way? I hope not, and I think attention is a hell of a drug, obviously. But do I think that there are boys and men who have sad, lonely lives and like are looking or have been upset with some girl didn't want to date him, and then they find, I guess, an outlet in these like extremists and feel heard, which is so sad to say. Why else would they listen to anyone else challenging them when there are 100 people on their cell phones or on their computers telling them that the way they view the world is correct? It's just like a runaway train.
How can you speak and break bread with the people who just feel like they're in an echo chamber that you can't penetrate?
Even like this interview, I hope maybe there's someone who, I don't know, followed me from my Bleacher Report complex days and like football, whatever, and like sees that I view things a certain way and can like relate to that. I wish I had an answer for how to like eliminate the scary echo chambers that we are talking about. For every Nick Fuentes, hopefully there's someone who can like speak up and do the right thing.
There's so many women, queer women athletes who are openly LGBTQ. And in the men's world, no, that's not the truth at all. What the heck is taking so long for these guys to come out?
I grew up in like football locker rooms. I would imagine that's probably the scariest place to ever be in question. I think if you were to come out now, I think we do, as a society, consider that to be like a step away from masculinity, and we view male athletes as potentially like peak or like the standard of masculinity,
gold standard
per se. Whereas with women, femininity, I don't consider it attached to sports as much.
What do you think could be done to like make a situation for more men to feel comfortable coming out in NFL, NBA, etc.?
I mean, I think it's got to be people doing it. But
I think there's a climate that stops people from doing it. So like what can be done with the climate to enable people to feel comfortable coming out?
I mean, I think it's got to come from within the locker room. It's got to start top down.
You look stressed answering this question.
I do, because I don't have like a great answer. It's hard.
Taylor Fritz is one of the best men's tennis players, top 10, and he's totally straight. And he openly said, guys should come out, they should feel safe, and they would be accepted. What do you think about the allies in professional sports?
All the Trump shit going on now probably makes it harder, because now people have more confidence in speaking up against that. I kid you not, if a professional sports player right now offered that option, they would get more pushback than they would have when Obama was in office.
You coming on here to talk to an LGBTQ publication, to tell me you voted for Kamala Harris, to do some of the things you do on social media is a risk that actually has potential repercussions.
Yeah, so during election month or two, I guess we could call it, I lost like 4K, 5K, 1,000 followers.
Because you
Speaking up.
posted Democratic-leaning posts.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like that hardcore. It was still very soft left, soft Democratic posts.
I would argue
Yeah.
most influencers, most people who are kind of like, social media
Yeah.
stars, famous, wouldn't say out loud, come on an LGBTQ publication, say, I voted for
Yeah.
Kamala, and say everything you said today. Why, in spite of that, do you still say, I'm coming here?
I think what we've talked about today is so much that like people need examples of people that they think they relate to. And if that's Missouri people or sports people, whatever, maybe my word lands harder for straight white dudes in their 20s because they see me as the same as them, where perhaps these fucking white kids don't actually listen to people who don't look like them or sound like them.
You are a staunch ally. You're out there. You're talking about it publicly, kind of thing. To the kids, to the Gen Z, to the Gen Alpha right now, the bros. Do you have any message to them on allyship?
Letting people share their story with you and like proving that you care is actually what people want. And they want to know that you know that they have had struggles and that they've been through things that you haven't been through.
I think so too. I think for me, and I think
Yeah.
for a lot of LGBTQ folks I know, like people feel like others tiptoe around them.
Yeah, exactly.
But we want to be asked the questions.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, it's okay. And I
Right.
think there is a divide. I think a lot of people in LGBTQ spaces sometimes don't have room for those because they are understandably so on the defense.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to make room for error.
I don't think I'm in the place to suggest that part of how we communicate with each other, but I do think certainly now, yeah, I think a lot of people are also afraid to like misspeak. I mean, I told you before we sat down, I was like, dude, if I like fuck something up, like if I say it the wrong way, like
Yeah.
check me, whatever. Communicating and like listening to each other is big. And, I think that's where we got to start.